Hey guys, it's me King Diablo, and in today's video I show you the class balance patch for Korea server. So firstly, all the classes got a common buff which is called instant activation skill. So basically any skill that have this phrase in the description now can be used immediately while using any other skills. Now let's start with the class buffs. So first let's start with Dark Knight class. This is the first buff skill for Dark Knight class. So now when you use this skill with the magic activation effect, one extra hit is applied. This is the second buff skill for Void Knight class. You can use this skill immediately even while using any other skills. Also, a new flow has been added to the skill which when activated deals 3 times the damage of the skill, and also it changes the behavior of the skill. Also, these buffs are also applied for this Ascension skill for Fantasma class. This is the third buff skill for Dark Knight class. So now when you use this skill with the magic activation effect, you get forward guard for 0.5 seconds. This is the fourth buff skill for Dark Knight class. Now when you use this skill with the magic activation effect, it deals 150 burn damage every second for 3 seconds. Now let's see Phantasma class buff. This is the first buff skill for Phantasma class. The attack range of this skill has increased, and you can now use this skill immediately even while using another skill. This is the second buff skill for Phantasma class. This skill can now be linked after using the Supernova skill. This is the third buff skill for Phantasma class. Now if you use this skill with its flow activated, the additional attack will be used faster, and the time spent in air, movement distance and attack range also increases. This is the fourth buff skill for Fantasma class. This skill can now be linked after using the Umbral Pillar skills. Lastly, the passive skill for Fantasma class has also been buffed. So now when you use the Scattering Darkness passive skill effect, it consumes 50% of your mana power instantly. Also, the magic consumption has been reduced from 10 to 5 when you are in the Scattering Darkness state. Also, when you have 100 mana points while in the Scattering Darkness state, it will consume 50 mana points to renew the duration of the Scattering Darkness effect. Now let's see Destroyer class balance. So firstly, the amount of damage dealt to field bosses by Destroyer class has been reduced. This is the first buff skill for Destroyer class. So now when you use this skill while the Radiant Heat effect is active, you get forward guard for 2 seconds. The passive skill for Destroyer class has also been buffed. So now when the Overheat passive skill effect activation conditions are met, its duration will be renewed. So basically you can keep using the Overheat passive skill effect continuously. Now let's see Kunoichi class buff. So firstly, the amount of damage dealt to field bosses by Kunoichi class has been increased. So this is the first buff skill for Kunoichi class. You can now use this skill immediately even while using another skill. This is the second buff skill for Kunoichi class. So now if you do not keep the skill icon pressed and if you just one tap it, it won't teleport you to your opponent. Now let's see Raven class nerfs. So now the damage you deal to field bosses with Raven class has been reduced. Now let's see Huntress class buff. So this is the first buff skill for Huntress class. So now the movement animation speed before and after using this skill has been increased. Now let's see Archer class buff. So this is the first buff skill for Archer class. A new flow has been added to the skill which lets you use this skill without moving. So basically you can sit in one place and keep attacking if you turn on the flow of the skill. This is the second buff skill for Archer class. You can now use this skill immediately even while using any other skill. Now let's see Zth class buff. So this is the buff skill for Zth class. You can now use this skill immediately while using any other skill. Now let's see Sura class buff. So this is the buff skill for Sura class. You can now use this skill immediately while using any other skill. Now let's see Legatus class buff. So this is the buff skill for Legatus class. You can now use this skill immediately while using any other skill. This is the second buff skill for Legatus class. You can now use this skill immediately while using any other skill. Also, these buffs also apply to this Ascension skill for Sage class. Now let's see Fletcher class buff. So this is the buff skill for Fletcher class. A new flow has been added to the skill which basically lets you use this skill without moving. Now let's see Buccaneer class buff. So this is the buff skill for Buccaneer class. A new flow has been added to the skill which lets you use this skill without moving. These buffs are also applied for this Ascension skill for Corsair class. Now let's see Mystic class buff. So this is the buff skill for Mystic class. You can now use this skill immediately while using any other skill. So that is it for today. If you found this video helpful, then don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and share. And if you want to further support the channel, you can donate to my PayPal account. PayPal link is in the description below. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.